Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, everybody. Thank you for tuning in to another Supatease video. And with this one, I will be going over how to dominate on a Fury Warrior. This specialization is a monster here towards the tail end of Shadowlands. It was the underdog for most of it, but now it is a rampaging Hulk. So if you want to be pwning your opponents, then this is going to be great content for you. And if you love seeing types of content like this, as well as updates and news for World of Warcraft so that you can stay ahead of the competition, make sure you smash the subscribe button as the warrior master that I know you are would do. But here into this match, we are going to be facing off against a Feral Druid and a Beast Mastery Hunter and a Discipline Priest Jungle Cleave composition. This is a combination of classes you are going to see a lot on the ladder as you're trying to climb for these end of season rewards. On my team, I'm running with an Enhancement Shaman and a Holy Priest, so a Turbo Cleave. This is one of the recommended compositions I would suggest to you as a Fury Warrior because it just fits really well with the Smash narrative, as well as Ret Warrior as a great option as well. Probably a better one, but if you can't find a Ret Paladin, an Enhancement Shaman is going to be just as good. So our main goal as this composition is to just immediately assess who the target is, because that's going to change and dictate the way that we're going to play. If we are going to be the target, which I'm anticipating by running Impending Victory here, I just want to make myself as durable as possible to be able to survive if my healer is ever caught in a freezing trap or my shaman is ever caught into a cyclone. With these Fury Warrior comps, Impending Victory can be really good for your own survivability. A lot of teams don't expect it. You have this emergency heal in your back pocket. So if you're struggling with teams and you're dying a lot as the Fury Warrior, I highly recommend running Battle Trance and Impending Victory. And this is going to just boost up your survivability and get you through those gaps that other warriors are not going to be able to get through. Our main goal against this team is to figure out who their target is. If it's us, we might want to hit the Feral Druid in line of sight. If it's our shaman, we're going to want to use Intervene when our priest is in crowd control, and Fear otherwise to try and stop important damage during that time. We're going to run forward and just AoE with Whirlwind, really good to do as a Fury Warrior, into any stealthies to try and pull them out, and we find the Hunter. As soon as we've immediately found the Hunter, we're going to pop every cooldown with the Static Field Totem holding the Hunter in place here, and then we're going to Blade Storm to immune the Feral Druid, potentially stunning us. We're going to swap off the defensive cooldowns on the Hunter towards the Priest, try and maximize our damage on a target that it doesn't have any damage reduction, and as soon as that's over, we're going to chain it into a Fear onto the whole team, and we're kind of just gunning down the healer. You can do this on a lot of cleaves at the moment. A lot of high-ranked teams actually just beeline at healers, and especially at lower range, you might catch them off guard. Look at this massive swing of damage. We got Barrier in this first assault. Now we've got Pain Suppression, a Battle Master Trinket out of this first assault, and we're still keeping our pressure, but we're going to swap off the damage reduction cooldowns. Here we can assess that we are the target, so we're going to use Enraged Regeneration. Our healer is in a freezing trap. Our shaman is in a stun, so this is where we want to use our Impending Victory. This is where we want to be using our Blood Rages as much as possible to heal while our healer can't, and this has managed to get us through the crowd control chain. If we didn't have all that healing that I just talked about in the beginning parts of the room, probably on the floor right now instead of continuing to smash the Feral Druid, who we're just going after because they're the closest target. The Hunter is probably the easiest target to kill. They're the most fragile, but they can also be tricky because if they're pulling you into bad positions without defensive cooldowns, you're going to regret chasing them, and a lot of Hunters will do this tactic to try and bait you. You always want to make sure that you're hitting something as you're running to your primary target. So in this instance, I would like to be hitting the Hunter, but he's too far away, so I'm going to hit the Feral Druid and kind of move my character towards where the Hunter is, but I still want to maintain my 8 stack as much as possible, so I'm trying to reconnect here onto the Feral Druid with those Raging Blow spams, with Reckless Abandon. Really important to have that talent for higher mobility so that you can stay on slippery targets such as a Druid or a Hunter, and your main goal would be to maintain this 8 stack while trying to march towards another target. But like I said, when you're the target of the Jungle Cleave, I typically like just staying near a box, staying near a pillar, so that I can line of sight the Hunter when my healer gets crowd controlled and just hit the Feral Druid. This is especially effective if they have a Disc Priest instead of a Holy Priest, and there have been more and more Disc Priests actually popping up as of recently, so you can kind of just run them out of mana. Here the Feral Druid's baiting me into a bad position on the bottom. We don't want to fall for those any of those types of baits. We are a smart warrior. We are not going to be overextending out of line of sight, so we're going to attack the Hunter who's pushing towards our healer. This way we don't have to overextend, and we might be able to disrupt some crowd control. I pre-Blade Storm here, and my priest pre-fades. We're anticipating the hunter to throw a trap because he's standing so close, but we dip low, so we're going to pop our impending victory, and look at that heal. We went from like 30 back to full. We've got the Feral Druid locked down in a lightning field totem here, and we can pop enraged regen here if our healer's crowd controlled, but they trinket out of the freezing trap. So you don't want to overlap your major cooldown and rage regeneration when your healer is going to use something. This is a very common mistake for teams, is to just press all their cooldowns at the same time. You want to be splitting them up as little as possible to be able to get away with surviving. So I'm not going to use enrage regen if my priest trinkets, who has in this instance. I highly suggest getting Omni CD, which is this add-on you can see on the left side. It's tracking their trinket, and that's how I know that they've trinketed, because I was playing with LFG and no voice, and this add-on can be really good for syncing up your plays with your teammates, even if you're just playing in no voice and you're always pugging with different people. So I really recommend it. And now we're finally able to get onto the hunter a bit. We blast him down to half, but now he's pulling off into the corner, so we're just immediately going to swap targets. Always want to be hitting something in the game. You never want to be just having dead time where you're not swinging your axes. You're not going to be a mighty warrior if you're not always swinging. So here now we can see the hunter wants to get crowd control, so we didn't even have to chase the hunter. The hunter is coming back in onto the priest, but we're going to stick on the feral druid because we've got our 8 stacks in the feral, and we've got the feral at like 10%. So at this point I don't want to give up. Berserker Rage to break out of fears, keep maintaining that 8 stack as much as possible, because this is going to really pressure any healers. This is the main reason you have a Fury Warrior on your team. So if you're not maintaining this Slaughterhouse stack above their health frame at 8 as much as possible on a target, you're really not going to perform well on a Fury Warrior. Here we get stunned up, but our healer's not in crowd control, so I'm anticipating they're going to be able to save me. We've got a Fear and a Conqueror's Banner available here, so we're going to go for a Fear, and then we're going to charge immediately back into the Hunter, pop Conch Banner, and he knows he's going to get zapped, so he's going to use Aspect of the Turtle to immune our damage. We immediately switch targets, always trying to pump out as much as possible, and we can reconnect with that Reckless Abandon during a Recklessness proc. Always want to be spamming Raging Blow as much as possible for rage generation, the chance to proc Wreck, and the mobility from it. Here we pre-Blade Storm. We're anticipating to get stunned, so we're trying to anticipate it, Blade Storm, and immune it. We got to keep up our stacks. Really like the Deathmaker legendary, because we get these Siege Breaker procs, which makes our damage outside of Conch Banner a lot more relevant. So it's the main reason why I like it. Signet of Ancient Kings is a good pickup. Stylistically, it probably is going to work better with a Ret Paladin who's doing big chunky burst damage that you're syncing up, whereas Enhance is kind of always doing damage. So I like the Deathmaker with the enhancement on the turbo. Here we're trying to keep our stacks, so we get stunned. We do manage to actually keep it right before we get stunned, which is a little bit lucky. Our healer's not crowd controlled, so we're not super panicked. We got an impending victory off before getting stunned. We're healing to full with the hot. We get a triple fear. With the triple fear, we're just gunning down rampage after rampage, generating as much rage as possible to be able to finally come close to finishing the target, but they managed to sneak away at 1%. We can keep our stacks going up to 8. You can use Zerker Rage to break out of Incap Roar. I don't have it here, but it's definitely something to be aware of if you're getting crowd controlled and you're so close to a kill. This is generally why the Hunter is an easier target to kill, because the Feral Druid can do things like this where they're just alive for like 30 seconds straight in bear form. But as long as we're still rotating our cooldowns effectively, we'll be able to survive and starve out the Discipline's Priest mana. So we're not too worried about it. We don't want to completely throw the game or overextend. We're just going to continue smashing away. We get a capped totem stun here onto the healer, so we can get even more damage out. We get stunned. I see the Hunter running at my priest. I'm anticipating some crowd control, so my priest actually pulls me back to the pillar, which is a really good pull, because then I could try and eat the trap. Unfortunately, I am a reckless warrior in this instance and didn't care about the trap, charging right back in. If there's a freezing trap landed, this is where we want to use impending victory. So we're going to impending victory. We have enraged regen coming up in a second. Make sure you have the impending victory conduit as well, because it's going to give you a massive hot. I'm probably doing more healing than my shaman this game, and with my healer coming out of the freezing trap, we're at 10%. I probably should have walled, but I actually greed it until way too late. Should have used my wall much sooner than this, but we do manage to recover, so we can continue after the Feral Druid. Priest is finally out of mana. This is the win condition. We just got to get uptime here. We just have to do damage to anything at this point. Going after the Feral Druid and preventing them from getting combo points means they're not getting instant regrowth heals, and you can starve them out of their frenzied regens. So this can be a good way of closing out the game once the priest is by going after the Feral Druid, because they're just sitting in bear form hoping that the priest gets a penance on them every 12 seconds. If you can stop those penances with wind shear like this, then the priest is not really going to be outputting any healing. We can maintain our 8 stack to absorb the rest of the healing. We're going to Blade Storm here, anticipating crowd control because my shaman got stunned. So I'm thinking, hey, he wants to stun me too. They normally don't want to just stun one person for no reason. They want to stun more. So if you see any partners on your team crowd controlled, you can Blade Storm, anticipating that you're about to be crowd controlled as well. This is usually a good signal, and you can see that with the big debuffs add-on here on my party frames. We just continue chasing the Feral Druid. We're getting uptime. We're getting very close to the win here, and we can finally overrun them. We even had a fear for good measure if the Feral Druid didn't go down right at that second, so we could chain the heal or the fear out of that. Like I said, playing with no voice is going to be a little bit riskier, and I know a lot of people do. I've been doing a lot more than playing with voice, so you really want to be getting some of these add-ons and know what information to look at on your frames when you're going for the game, so you're not overusing cooldowns, not underusing cooldowns, and you're going to be able to pull off more victories that way. But regardless, I hope that this video has helped you smash the competition as it was intended, and if it did, please leave it with a thumbs up and comment down below with your thoughts and what types of content you would like to see. I know that I had a Turbo Cleave request on my stream, which is the main prerogative for this video's production. So if you have any interest in specific content, then make sure you let me know. Other than that, thank you very much for watching, and subscribe to the stream.